Hello and welcome back to my channel. For this card, I am using old and new Lawn Fawn products. To start with, I have Scattered Straw Distress Oxide ink. I am inking up a little circle. This, I just have some Eclipse masking paper that I have die cut a circle from it. I am placing the circle over the top when I finish. I now have Distress Oxides in Chipped Sapphire and Victorian Velvet, and I'm going to ink my sky. The top part will be the Chipped Sapphire, and the bottom part will be the Victorian Velvet. For this, I kind of imagined sort of a cotton candy, but nighttime sort of sky. I don't know, it works with my theme. This card morphed. It turned into something completely different than what I had originally planned for it to be. Anyway, this blend was not perfect. I do need probably some better blending brushes for some of these colors. This black one's actually a pretty good brush, but the little pink one, not so good. Once I'm fairly happy with how the sky looks, I am going to take this liquid Stardust from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to water it down just a little bit, and then I am going to splatter it along my background. This will just make it look like stars in the sky. Now real quickly, I did want to mention that this video is part of a YouTube hop between me and 4 other talented card makers. This is sponsored by Lawn Fawn, so there is a giveaway for $25 to their shop, and that's US dollars. Back to my card, I'm using my simple Grassy Hillside dies to create a grass border for the bottom. This does not go all the way across, so I do have to put it up there twice. There's a little like wonky spot, but I'm going to cover it up. To give it some color, I'm using my Peeled Paint Distress Oxide, and I'm just covering it. I'm not trying to be super careful in this or anything. And then I have the piece that I took off the top. Now this is going to seem really weird to start with, but you'll see I do something with it later. I'm using Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide to add a little bit of dimension to the bottom of my grass. And then I'm going to squish it down on my stamp block, water it down, and I'm going to give my little hillside some green splatters. While I wait for that to dry, I am going to use some Copic markers to color my pumpkin die cut. Now this is from the Pumpkin House die set from Lawn Fawn. All these products will be listed in the description box below. I am using markers to color this pumpkin instead of distress inks or oxides because I knew I would have a lot of other pumpkins in the scene and I wanted them all to look similar to each other. For this, I'm just kind of feathering the color from the top and the bottom in towards the center, and I'm leaving it the darkest at the very top and the very bottom. I am trying to make my little marker flicks irregular in length and width just so that it looks more natural. For anyone who does not love watching someone color, this video is very coloring heavy. If you wish to skip all that, I think most of it is over by 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Though, fair warning, I do think I color some parts after that. They're just tiny little pieces here and there. Before you go though, I would like you to know to enter the giveaway, you need to leave a comment on each video along the hop. Alright, you can go. Bye. I'll see you in a little bit. For anyone still left hanging out with me while I color, I don't really have anything to say while I'm finishing up this pumpkin, but I'll get back to you when I have something relevant. Now that my pumpkin is colored, I am going to pull out Happy Harvest for the pumpkins. I am pulling out Pick of the Patch also for the pumpkins, and I'm going to use some of the jack-o'-lantern faces too. I have Costume Party. I have Fox costumes before and after. The Purrfectly Wicked add-on. The Fangtastic Friends and the add-on for that one. Sweet Christmas. And Apple-soluetly Awesome. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and color all my pumpkins. I am using a combination of Copic markers and some of the Ohuhu markers that I have. So if you see the round markers, those are the Ohuhu ones. And, you know, I'm sure anybody who has had any Copics or watched enough videos with Copics, you can tell the Copics from the other brand markers. So I'm sure you guys know, if you're Lawn Fawn fanatics like we are, the ones that are part of the hop, the new items that I'm using from their new release is the Apple-soluetly Awesome stamp set and the Fangtastic Friends and add-on stamp set. As I color a lot of these little images, I am using 3 colors, and I mention this pretty much every time. You do not have to. It's honestly overkill. For my caramel, on my caramel apples, I did use 3 colors. For the apples themselves, I did use 3 colors, but for the sticks, I used 2, which might even still be a little bit much. You don't really notice that I blended anything, really, probably. For my red apple, I do add a Y marker to the very top of the apple, and that just kind of brightens up my reds a little bit. Now, I know we haven't got to card construction time yet, but I just want you to realize how well the Lawn Fawn products work together, the new and the old. That happens to be one of the several reasons I love Lawn Fawn. Alright, for my little candy corn, I kept this very simple. I did do both the orange, yellow, and white candy corn as well as the brown, orange, and white candy corn. I know those are like less popular or common or whatever, but I do see them, so I wanted to incorporate them just to add a little bit more color. Now, when you see me use a blue combination or a purple combination or whatever, I am usually using the exact same colors over again, so I'm not going to show you them for each time. Also, for my candy, I do have different colors of each of the candies, but I wasn't going to force anyone to sit here and watch me color the exact same candy 3, 4, 5 different colors. That's a little ridiculous. But as you can see, these, I kept those simple too. I used the lighter color for the base of it, and then I used a slightly darker shade just for a little bit of shadow. Alright, now here is the rest of the colors that I end up using for the rest of my candy. Now here was one of my favorite things to color. This is the combinations that I use. I kept these very simple. It was just 2 colors for each little gummy worm, and that's just because the gummy worms that I was copying usually have 2 colors for each worm. It was at this point I decided I wanted to add a caramel drip to my pumpkin. And I know that's a little weird, but I took a pumpkin die cut again, and I took the little drip die from the Ice Cream You Screams die set from Lawn Fawn, and I had to cut it out twice on the pumpkin to get it to go all the way across. But I did that. There's a little bit of weirdness in the middle, but I figured I would cover that up and no one would know. And then I spent forever trying to color this to get it to look like I wanted. I think because it was such a large area that I was trying to make look like caramel, I was struggling. So after a while, I give up trying to show you because I don't really know that I made a whole lot of progress. I was just playing through it, I guess. And finally I decided it was good enough. And here's what it looks like all together. Actually, it looks pretty cute. And then I decided I wanted some candy corn along the top. So my idea for this was sort of like a gingerbread house meets Halloween. Or maybe like Candyland, but Halloween edition. The thing about it is I really wasn't loving the white outlines. So I took one of the browns that I used to color the caramel, and I just went around the white edges of my cut pieces. This is something that I do for the rest of the images in my card. So a little tedious. If you know you're going to do this to start with, you could just cut along the lines instead. For my door, I decided to make it green with a white outline. And now my pumpkin door needs a doorknob, and what better doorknob than a little candy corn? Moving back to my background, I decided I needed some little spots on my moon, so I'm using a pale blue violet. Now I'm aware that there was a stencil and a die in the new release from Lawn Fawn that was a moon. And I do have the stencil. My problem was it was entirely too big compared to my pumpkin house, so I did not use it. But I would have loved to. I glued my grass down. I did leave it sticking up at the very ends where the little blades of grass are. And I glued my pumpkin house straight down. Here I decided I wanted to use the candy as sort of a pathway to the house. And again, I'm coloring in the white outline of my images to match the grass because I didn't like the way it looked. After I made the little candy path, I did feel like it needed something else, so I decided to frame it up with the caramel apples. After coloring around all the white bits, I did cut off what was hanging off the end. And now moving on to my little pumpkin buckets. Or maybe they are carved pumpkins. It's whatever you would like. I'm gluing the various candies on the inside of the buckets. I am trimming off the ends of the worms because they didn't really fit in there very well. Now, the same is true for the wrapped candies right here. But instead of cutting them off, because I didn't really have a good place to cut them off, I just outlined the spots that were missing and then hoped for the best. And then here I have my little lollipops. I am gluing those inside of one of the buckets too. Now here I told myself I should probably add some of the background details first, and I'm usually against making both sides of my card exactly the same, but here you'll see I did the exact same pumpkins in the exact same order all along the back of the pumpkin house. I actually don't hate it as much as I originally thought. Here for my little pumpkin buckets, I'm giving them each a face. And they all have different faces. And then again, coloring in the areas of the white borders that I didn't like. And now comes the tedious process of doing the exact same thing to the pumpkin buckets and the candy on the inside. Once I've finished that, I'm going to add some more candy. I have these lollipops. These came from Sweet Christmas. And I am going to color around the white borders for those too. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of my scene. So I have some tiny little pumpkins. I have these spiders, which I think are like the cutest little spiders ever. And I have some warm gray markers that I'm going to color them in with. Nothing super crazy here. I'm just trying to make it a little bit dark in some areas so it looks not so flat. I'm adding some random candy here and there, just to kind of fill up the scene a little bit. Once I've colored in all the borders, I'm bringing back that scrap piece of cut off from my grass, and I have cut off some little pieces so that I could add little tufts of grass here and there, just to make my grass not look so flat. For one of the final touches, I have this unicorn dust glitter from Simon Says Stamp and my quickie glue pen. Now I'm going to make these little worms look like the sugared gummy worms because those are my favorite. And I thought it would be cute. I'm also going to add just a little bit of glitter to the backs of the spiders. Not sure why a spider would be glittery, but I thought it would make it cuter. Next, I'm just giving some quick highlights to the lollipops. The bigger ones especially because they're so very visible. I did give a few to the smaller ones as well. Now it's time for a sentiment. I have my unicorn white pigment ink from Hero Arts, as well as my white Ranger embossing powder. And this was a mess. It really was. I made a giant mess with my embossing powder because I was trying to rush to get this card done. And this didn't stamp perfectly. I figured it out. Like it was fine. But I also didn't love how small that looked, so I did add a sentiment on top of it as well. I was just really fortunate that that one fit. After I heat set it, my card was complete. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to leave a comment on each hop along the way. Bye!